Welcome to the first. You have a story. If you look back on your life, you've done things for the first time that no one in your family, in your town, in the country has done. This is Dr. Sandi. You have unknowingly paved the way for others without knowing it or even acknowledging it. This is where you tell your story so that those who come after you can walk in your footsteps to build their own firsts. Welcome, Elman. Today I'm talking to Elman Woodson, and Elman is the first lawyer in his family. You'll hear all about him as we go through this and find out the amazing things that Elman is doing. Elman,
Hello, Sandy. Thank you
let's
for having me.
talk. Oh, no, I love having you. And thank you for coming on. Thank you for being a part of my podcast.
Definitely. So I'm excited. This is very exciting, and I'm looking forward to talking with you.
So, Elman, you're the first lawyer in your family. You're an attorney, you're an entrepreneur. So, tell me a little bit about your journey to that.
Yeah, so it's interesting as I was thinking about this. I was thinking from a law school perspective because I was the first in my family to go to law school, first to pass the bar, first to start a law firm, and all these different things. But then I started thinking about other parts of my life and kind of all the things that kind of have led me to that. And in undergrad, I was the first to teach English in China. I don't think there was anybody in my family who taught English in China. I was
Not
the
in my
first
family either.
I was the first to study abroad in Spain. I studied over in Spain for a semester, and that was exciting.
Was your
Another thing
family
that
excited for you that you're
oh
doing these things, or they thought you were crazy?
well, yeah, you're right. Everybody thought I was nuts. Especially when I told them, because I still remember to this day, I wanted to go, when I was an undergrad, I knew I wanted to go to Spain and to China. For some reason, I wanted to go to those two countries. And, I didn't have the money or anything like that. Or I didn't know how it was going to happen. Um, I remember I went to one of my professors and I told him, I said, listen, I want to go to Spain and to China. Can you help me? And I remember his face. He looked at me and he had this big smile. And he said, yes, let's get to work. And at that time, it was just me. I was taking courses in Chinese and I was still very basic in terms of Chinese and I didn't know Chinese at all. But I wanted to go. I just wanted to go because it's a place that nobody in my family has ever been to. I just wanted to go. And I, I remember I started making the plans to make it happen. I just started to make the plans. Again, I knew where I was.
But
I knew
where did
what.
you start? Like when you're making your plans to do this, what's the first thing you do to kind of get on the way?
So well, after I spoke to my professor, he started telling me about different things I should probably do. Start working on, your passport. Start working on your Chinese courses. Start working on, look up different programs to get involved in. And one day, as I was walking from the cafeteria back to my dorm, a friend of mine walked up to me and he was like, "Hey, I heard you want to go to China. Is that true?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, it's true." He said, "Well, me and another guy want to go too." And I was like, "That's great." And now they were fluent in Mandarin Chinese, so that, that made the trip so much easier. And what happened was, as we all kind of came together, we went back to that professor and we told him, "Listen, all three of us want to go now." And he had this big smile on his face and he said, "Let's put together a program." So
Nice.
out of that, it was a program that kind of started an exchange between our college and a high school over in China. And
And this
so,
is high school.
what was that?
This is high school.
No, this was college. This was
College. Okay.
college. So we started an exchange program where we were teaching. We were going to go over there and teach English for summer in
Oh,
China.
got you. Got you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it started a program where we have started to have students go to. And that was actually a first, and I didn't think about that initially, as we were just talking about. First, I thought it was law school, but then I was like, wait a second, I've done a lot of things. And so that put together a program, and so like me and those guys, we went to China and taught English, and then we got a chance to travel all around China, all over China. We got to see the
Wow.
Great Wall, Shanghai,
I've
wholeheartedly.
not been to China.
Oh, it's a beautiful
I've
country. It's a
I've
beautiful.
not really been to Asia.
Oh,
I've gone,
wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
well, I've gone to India, but I don't really consider I consider that more like Asia. But no, it's on my list, and
Yes.
every single time I get the opportunity to go, something else takes
Yeah.
away the
Yeah,
opportunity.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's still on my list.
It's a
Thailand,
beautiful country.
China, Vietnam,
Oh, yes. Those are some beautiful countries. Some beautiful countries.
nice.
And so after that, once I got back, um, I got back, and then right when I got back, I went to Spain, and went to study abroad in southern Spain in Granada,
Oh,
and actually lived with a family. Beautiful time. But the thing about that whole journey that really taught me something was, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, faith without works is dead.
yes, my favorite.
Yes, and the thing about it is, like, you can't accomplish things by just talking. At a certain point, you have to put some
Doing
actions and some
work.
steps towards
Yes,
it,
yes,
and you have to put faith steps towards it. Like, you don't know the how, all this in between. You know where you are, you know where you want to go, but all that in between, sometimes it's just a dark, you don't know what it is. And it's not until you start to take those steps, one step at a time, that the path becomes illuminated, or you meet the right
and you
person who
just
can push
pray
you.
on it. You just
Right.
pray on it. That's
Yeah.
sometimes that's all you have is the prayer to say,
Yeah.
get me through this. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I have
Ex-
faith that this will
exactly. Yes, exactly. My dad likes to say sometimes you have to put some super on your natural
happen.
in order for in order for things to actually work out, and it's
Yeah,
it's the it's the absolute truth. And
yeah.
so I think the best thing we can do is do everything we know to do, and then let God handle the rest. But that was the main thing that I learned from that experience, was that for the dreams that you want to accomplish, do everything you know to do, and God will take care of the rest.
Yes.
And as long as you do that, you're okay. You can make it. And so I took that into so I
But I
graduated from.
think I think what's good about that is you had faith in yourself.
Yes,
You had faith that you can do this if you do the work.
exactly,
And
exactly.
sometimes a lot of people don't have the faith in us that we have in ourselves, or
Right,
they just see our idea as far-fetched, unrealistic.
right,
But, how realistic is it to say I'm going to put a man on the moon?
right, exactly.
How realistic is it that, Tesla is making, electric cars and all of this stuff? And when we used to see the Jetsons, right,
Right,
we said that's so unrealistic. Well,
right.
we're living in the unreality of 20, 30 years ago. We're living it now.
I mean, it's so true. And, society, our society is we are born into a very negative society that tells us all the things we can't do. It wants to put everybody in this box. You need
Yes.
to work a 9 to 5. You go home, you go to sleep, you wake up, you do it again. You work a 9 to 5, you go home, you go to sleep, you wake up,
But
you do it again.
why, Elman? I think of it, a lot of it is fear.
Yes,
It's fear. So when someone tells you you can't do that, it's their own fear.
it's their own fear. Yes,
Their
it's their
own
own fear.
fear. And sometimes fear for you. Like if
Yeah,
you're a parent and you say to a kid, don't do that, or I want you to become a doctor.
yeah,
Or even if your parents said, I want you to become a lawyer or
right,
whatever,
right,
they want for you the best.
right.
And so they'll stop you from doing other things. I was having this conversation with my husband, and his son was a really wonderful artist. And
Mhm.
he decided that, artists only get famous when they die.
Yeah, yeah,
And how much money are you going to make from
right,
being an artist?
right.
And so he got directed to being a doctor.
Hmm.
And now, today, he is I guess he runs the whole surgical stuff for the military,
Mm.
right? He's
Wow,
like the
wow.
top doc. And but I'm like, what about his art?
Hmm.
Like, does he still draw? Does he still do things? And that part is a little sad
Hmm.
because yes, as a parent, you directed him to do the thing that he's making money and making a living at.
Right, right.
But there's kind of a sad thing that he had to give something up
Give something up, yeah.
in
Yeah.
order to do that. And as parents, we do that all the time, even without knowing,
Oh,
right?
oh, totally, totally. I have two little ones, two guys, I have two little guys, man. One is 2 and one is 3.5. And I drill into them. You can be anything you want to be. You can do anything you want to do. But you said something earlier, just a minute ago, that I thought was really key, and it was about the fear and projection of the fear, and the fact that sometimes parents project onto their kids what they believe is the best for them
All the time.
all the time. But I listen to this guy named Bob Proctor a lot. He talks a lot about he asked the question, what do you want? Like, I want you to really think about, what do you want? Not what your mom wants, not what your dad wants, not what your wife wants or your spouse wants, not what anybody else has told you you should want. What do you want? Because there are, just like you said, in terms of art, who knows? He may be the next Michelangelo and may not even know it, or the next Leonardo and may not even know it. But because he has not been, he has not gone after it, or because he hasn't determined what he wants, it's it's
But
very
part of
interesting.
it too, I don't mean to cut you off, but part of it is even if he determined that's what he wanted, he didn't have the money. He's a kid. He didn't have the money to go take art lessons and to go do these things. And if your parent isn't going to support that effort,
Hmm.
then you kind of die on the vine.
Yeah, it's hard. It's
You
definitely
stay there and you might do your little scribbles or whatever, but you don't get the knowledge behind it to
hard. Hmm.
take it further.
Yeah.
And so you still are beholden to your parents' dreams, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And might stop you from being the first great artist in the family.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it's tough because then it becomes that question of, just like I was asking before, was sometimes we have these dreams, these goals, these aspirations that dog us. Like for me, one thing that I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to achieve that goal. It was a dream that I had in my mind. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. It's a dream that I've had in my mind. I can't. I wake up in the morning thinking about it. I go to sleep thinking about it. I'm eating lunch and I'm thinking about it. And it's those things that life is not letting you let that go.
Yes.
Life is not like, for example, with you wanted to do this podcast. You wanted to create this podcast. You know that you wanted to do it. And it's those things that you can't let go. And life is saying, like, listen, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
And this is what you were born to do. And, one of the greatest things I think that we have the opportunity, our birthright as human beings on the face of this planet, the greatest creatures that God has ever created, He's given us our birthright of creation. We
Yes.
get to create our own life, our own path. I truly
Choice.
believe
We have choice.
we have the power of choice. And notice I said it's the power of choice. We have the ability to create a wonderful masterpiece if we can just allow ourselves to create. Les Brown said something I thought was really interesting. He said one time there was these kids that were out playing on the ice, and one of the kids fell through the ice. And they were little kids. The other little kids saw that his friend was drowning in the ice, and he went to this tree and broke off a branch from the tree because they were the only two out there, and he was screaming for help. Broke off the branch and went to the ice and started to savagely beat the ice so his friend could get out of the ice. And his friend got out of the ice, and then when the paramedics and all the emergency people arrived, an older man asked the question, or when the paramedics asked the question, how could that little kid break such a big branch and get out there and beat the ice and save his friend like that? And another guy was standing there, and he said, I'll tell you how he did it. He did it because no one told me he couldn't do it.
Yes.
And we have to really watch what we're putting on the inside of us, we need to be listening to the right things, viewing the right things, speaking to the right people who are in our corner, pushing us to go for our dreams, pushing us to believe in ourselves, not to believe in everybody else in their dreams. Yes, be happy for them, but we have to believe in ourselves. One of the biggest challenges that people have in this world is believing that they can do something,
Yeah,
believing that they can achieve their
I agree
dreams.
with that. And it's very hard so it starts from when you were little, right?
Yes,
When you're a kid.
yes,
Because the same thing, we tend to absorb the negative more
yes,
than the positive.
yes, we
And
do.
the negative stays with people a lot longer unless something is being reinforced. So if somebody tells you you'll never be nothing, I don't know why you're trying that, you'll never be anything.
Hmm.
You start at some point, if you don't see people who are doing that going, yeah, they're probably right
Yeah,
because I don't see anyone doing it. And
yeah,
therefore, who am
yeah,
I to think that I could do it? And
yeah,
so that stays in you
yeah.
and makes you question things.
Right.
My mom, oh my God, I don't know who made her, but she has never told us that we can't do anything.
Hmm. Hmm.
Even
Yeah.
some stupid things she supported us in, I would never support any kid in that.
Yeah, yeah.
And she showed up for every dance recital, every little thing
Yes,
that we did. Soccer.
yes.
Yes, you can. And I'm like, I remember this one gong show. Remember the gong show?
Yeah, yeah. I remember the guy show. I do.
My little sister was in the gong show in school. My
Wow.
mom kept saying to her, you can't sing. You can't sing, right? And she says, yes. My mother says, yes, she can.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yes, yes.
But I was praying that she was with two other friends and the other two girls could sing and drown her out.
Yeah.
And to her credit, my mom kept saying, yes, Carly, you can do this. You could be in the gong show.
Yes, yes.
And on the night of the gong show, we were all in the audience, like the whole family. And she says to me, oh, the two other girls decided they're not going to do it.
So that's
And I said, and you're not going to do it either, right? And she goes, I'm going to do it. And
that's
I'm like,
right.
oh, no. And my mother's like, yes, you can do it. She can't. And she went out there and she got gonged.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's such a lesson.
Yes, yes.
And my mom really just rooted her on. And because my mom was telling her, yes, you can do it, she went out there really truly believed she did it.
Yes, yeah,
And
yeah,
even though she got gone, she tried.
yeah, yeah,
And, we have to be cognizant with our kids to just say, oh, try it and let them fail on their
yeah,
own,
yeah,
right? And let
yeah.
them decide this isn't the path that I want.
Right. Because I think the thing about it is, if you let them decide what it is that they want, what it is that they may have joy in the failure. You never know. They may look at that failure and say, you know what, I'm going to try that again.
I
I'm
do.
gonna
I never fail at anything.
yes, because
It's just a learning for me. I never fail.
because failure is if there I don't even really like the word failure, but failure is a moment. It's not the whole experience.
Correct.
You know,
You
and
learn
if
from the
you
experience.
learn from it and you keep
Yeah.
on going.
Yeah.
When I put up a little for my kids, when I put up a little something and I say jump over this, if they can't jump over the first time, do I just say you failed, just go sit down, don't ever try it
Right.
again?
Right.
No, they get up and like the question is how many times will it take for a kid to walk? As many times as it takes. Some people it takes a little while,
Yeah.
Some people have to
Just
fall
get up
down
and walk.
several times.
I've seen kids that
Exactly.
just got up and walked. They didn't
Yes.
crawling, the creeping phase. They just
Yeah.
started walking.
They just get up and walk.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because you were talking about how, like, bad news. Sometimes, well, bad news. We're talking about bad news and negative news, and bad news travels so much faster than good news.
Yes.
I never quite understand why, but eventually, maybe one day I'll understand. But that just shows about the
Part of the
importance.
negative. It's just whole part of the negative things. People gravitate to that a lot
Right,
faster. Look
right.
at the news,
Oh,
right?
right, exactly, exactly. But that just shows how important, how necessary it is that positivity, how necessary it is that motivation, inspiration is given
Creating
out.
good examples.
Yes, is provided to people, especially now. Our world needs inspiration. Our world needs motivation. We need it now more than ever. I mean, there's been so many things that have gone on with Corona and people dying and all these different things. And positivity. People are looking to see something positive. People are looking to hear something positive. People are yearning for something good, you know? And that's why good is received like so warmly when people receive. That's why, it's better to give than receive. When you give to somebody, you get more from that than receiving from them. Like when you're giving good gifts to your kids under the Christmas tree, like you don't even need anything. Just to see them being happy is
Yeah.
enough. And it's important that we do that. But I also wanted to say we were talking about the power of good words and positivity and reinforcement. It's just like a garden. We are just like a garden. And Les Brown, I like Les Brown. I don't know if you've ever heard of him
I
before,
love
but
listening. Yes.
yeah, he really, oh man, he's amazing. But one thing that he always says is that life is like a garden, and when you I'm sorry, life is a fight for territory is what he says. Life is a fight for territory,
Yes.
and when you stop fighting for what you don't want will automatically take over. It's just like weeds in a garden. We have to tend to the
Yes.
garden of our minds. We have to constantly
That's a great
reinforce our
analogy.
minds. And people, even though we have loved ones who may not be on the same frequency or same wavelength as our dreams and our accomplishments and the things that we want to do, but that should not stop you from still trying. That should not stop you from still pushing yourself to do everything that you know to do. Because some of the greatest motivation to your friends and family is not you talking, it's you doing.
Yes.
It's you living the life that you have dreamed of living. It's you being that person that you are thinking about being and wanting to be. And as you do that, because look, actions speak louder than
Other than
words.
words. All
Actions speak louder than words,
all the time.
and so a lot of times we have these, and people want to just talk and not do. Like right now, you are doing by having this podcast, and as you're doing, you are encouraging and inspiring other people to do, and that's the greatest encouragement. And as you're watering your garden, you're
I agree with that because I really do feel I was talking to someone right before this that came here, and
hmm
he's the plumber,
hmm
and he came to do some work, and we just started talking. Well, I'm going to have him on my podcast
see, that's
because
awesome.
the things that he was telling me about, I just started doing a cooking show. I was doing some YouTube stuff. I was cooking, and my wife said that tasted really good. You should tell people how you do it. And he said she made a video of it, and he's woke up and he had like a couple hundred hits of people.
Yep.
So he's like, I'd love to do the cooking show. I don't know if I have time though. I'm like,
Yeah.
you have time when your wife videoed it, just doing it
Yeah.
for fun, you know? And so about your book,
Yes.
about
Yes.
your book and what made you decide to write your book. Is that a first
So
for you too? Will that be your first in your family to have an author in a family?
I don't think so. I actually think is another author in my family. Actually, I know there's another author in my family.
Oh, okay.
I'm not the first, but my book is about my experience in law school and the challenges that I faced in law school and how I overcame them. And so it's entitled "Look Up," and the title actually came from a conversation that I had with one of my classmates, and and just explaining to her at the time some of the challenges that I was facing and some of the things that I overcome. I remember to this day, she was like, "You should really write a book about this. This is amazing." And so I I decided to write the book. Now, the thing about it is, the book is actually the book will be released. I'll just put this out there. The book will be released in May of this year, and so I'm really excited about it. We've worked on the cover. We're getting everything. We're doing all the final edits, putting it together, and it's actually like a dream. It's a dream come true, really, for me. It's something that I've really been preparing for. But this book has been inside of me for 10 years. And you know what? You know what, Sandy? Is the thing is that at one point I struggled with the belief that I could even do it. Yeah, I'm an attorney. What I do is I get paid to research and write, and and I struggled with the idea that I could write a book. I struggle with the idea. It's crazy, right?
Because it's such a different thing when you're talking about yourself than
Yes,
researching somebody else's stuff.
yeah. And so I struggled with writing the book, and then um, at a certain point, I said, listen, I got to get this book done. And I worked with a publisher. She's really pushing me to just like really be dedicated and disciplined about my time and how I use my time and completing it in a certain time frame. And that really pushed me. And then my wife pushed me on the book. And it was it's really my story. And as I began to write it, I started with just a sentence and then it became a paragraph. And then I went into more detail about my experiences and my thoughts and how I felt at the time. And the thing about it was that I began to remember everything like it was yesterday.
Yes.
And I began to remember all the conversations. I remember how I felt about certain things and how I felt about a comment that was made here or how I felt about, yeah, and it just started to all flow as I began to allow myself the freedom and I stopped thinking about what I could and couldn't do and just started thinking about the experience. And it was one of those things that it was a freeing experience. And now I have ideas for all these other books I want to write. And so, yeah. And so it's like this whole life journey is, if you allow it, it will really set you free.
And it plays itself out.
It'll play itself out and things will work out. And in this experience of writing this book, I also began to move more into motivation and inspiration. And I created these 5-minute motivations that I have on my social media.
Very
And
nice.
and it became this very interesting thing to where now people are saying, can you talk to our youth here? Can you talk to these people? Can you do?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I never thought, I just put it out there. And it was one of those things I didn't necessarily know what I was doing. And then a few friends of mine started saying, "Hey, have you thought about doing better lighting here? Have you thought about doing this here? Have you thought about doing more tech here?" And I was like, "No, I hadn't at the time." But the thing is, as you take this, faith without works is dead. If you don't take the steps,
Yes.
opportunities won't present themselves. People won't present themselves. But if you do, you you could do anything. You meet people in different situations in different you meet people who will tell you different things and guide you along the pathway you never thought you know. And it's just amazing. Life is amazing in that way.
Yeah. So tell me some of the experiences that are in your book. Give us a little taste of what.
Okay. I don't want to disclose too much about it because
Just give me the PR. You're gonna have to do some press on this at some point.
this is true.
Do your table topics moment.
Oh, nice. I like that. So, Look Up is a story. Look Up is a story about an average guy, a regular guy who wants to go to law school, who destined, who knows that he wants to get into law school, does everything he knows to do, and then things start to work out for him to get in. And then he gets in and he deals with a number of adversities that any other person would have been like, "Wow, why do you I'm not going to be able to do this. I can't make this happen." But for some reason, he he chooses to believe. He chooses to believe in the dream. He chooses to believe that against all odds, things can happen, things can work out. And here I am. I'm a barred attorney with my own firm, a number of dreams, public speaker, soon to be author, soon to be business owner on a number of different fronts.
What
So
kind of
I'm
businesses are you putting together now? What are you doing? Some of the things.
so right now I'm working on I have the 5 minute motivations, which is kind of leading to more. I've created Elman Woodson LLC, which is the book's going to be under that. My speaking is going to be under that. I'm also looking at some more business acquisitions. So I'm actually in the midst of some things right now of acquiring some businesses. So I, I this is, and I'm at the point now, Cindy, where I'm doing what I've always wanted to do.
Good.
I'm living the life that I've dreamed of. And opportunities are presenting themselves to me now that I never would have
It
imagined.
will come.
Matter of fact, right before I got on the call, I received a phone call from someone who I've never met, who now wants me to be on a panel to speak about business.
Yes.
And then last week I got asked to be on another panel, this legal panel, to speak about business and things like that. And I never could have imagined that I'd be in this place now where I'm being asked to speak.
Yes.
I'm being asked to give. I'm being asked to write books. I'm being asked to, and now all because I'm taking a chance on me. I'm taking a chance on my dream. I'm taking a chance to believe that that I can do it, that I can
And
believe.
yes,
Not only can
yes,
I
yes.
believe it, but I can do it. And the freedom in that, the freedom in the belief, the freedom in just as I'm doing these things, I'm only getting more and more belief in myself and in the supernatural that these things can happen.
Yeah.
You don't have to know all how it's going to happen. You don't have to know the how, but if
But
you
you
just
know
know,
what? When you try, other people see that you're trying, and you'll get help from the most unlikeliest of places.
yes,
And that happened
exactly,
in my business. And as
yes,
a matter of fact, so I have a book with my business partner that we put out like in 2008 or 9 or somewhere around there. And it's all about business. And one of the
mm,
things that I think, was it a chapter? I can't even remember, it was a chapter. But it's like help will come from the most unlikeliest of,
unlikely places. Yes,
and the people that I thought would help me,
yep, yeah, yeah. I know. It's so
if
weird to
if
say.
if you had told me that those people wouldn't help me, I would call you a liar.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would say I can go to that person and I could ask them anything and they'll go, yes, Sandy, I'll do it for you.
yep, yep, yep.
And I went to them and they're like, ah.
Right, right.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah,
And sometimes they don't want to jeopardize, their careers if it's a chance with their career. Or I remember, and this is in the time of diversity and equity and all that is interesting because I remember going to a black woman who was in a higher position. I was in the corporate world at the time.
hmm
And I just wanted her to support me and help me out. And we've always had good vibe, in meetings. I back her, everything.
right,
And I wanted to be promoted.
right,
And I was deserving of being promoted. And
right.
I was talking to her about it. And I just started getting this energy like, hmm, um, she didn't say I'm not gonna back you,
Right.
but I could tell that there was hesitancy in this, and she never said I would back you.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
some people would just come right out, girl, I'm all over that.
Yes. Yeah.
It was
Sometimes
just,
go ahead.
okay,
Yeah.
the very quiet, okay,
Yeah.
okay. And I'm like, that's not an okay.
Right. 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 Right.
And never got the help.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
matter how many times I went there to say, this is what I'm doing. I never got the support.
hmm
And the support that I got came from people I didn't even know in the company.
Right. I'm telling you, that's how it
Who would
happens.
call me and say, Sandy, I heard you want to do that. Hey, there's something over here,
Yeah.
check out over here. And I'm like, okay. And
Yeah.
you want me to call somebody for you?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
That's
how it happens. Yeah,
that I learned is I have no expectations now.
yeah,
When I ask for help, I'm genuinely asking for help.
right.
And if someone helps me, fine. If they can't, just say you can. And
Yeah,
I'll move on.
yeah,
I have
yeah.
no expectations whatsoever
Right.
because I've met people on the street who've helped me
Mm-hmm.
more than the guy downstairs that I was talking to, the plumber.
Yeah.
He says, I have the best SEO guy. I said, you do? So here.
Yeah, yeah. What's interesting is that, based on what you said, and it's so true. We sometimes we go to people who we expect have this expectation that they are going to provide us the help. And sometimes when they say no or they provide that nonverbal communication that you can easily pick up and just know that it means no,
Yeah.
you can do one of two things with that. You can accept that and be like, wow, maybe I'm just not worthy, or maybe I just don't, you stop, you
I'm
kind of,
learning that.
it's like a, yeah, but sometimes it's like a ting, it's like a ting in our armor. It's like a ting, it's like a chink. It starts to be a little chink in our belief in ourselves. Or you can do the opposite.
Exactly.
And you can choose to believe that I don't care what anybody has to say. I'm going to make this happen for myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to believe in myself, and I'm going to believe that this is what I'm supposed to do. And at the point that you make that decision, the whole universe is like, yes, let's go. I'm willing to help you. I want to do what you want to do. Let's get it going.
Elman, when that happens to me, I get such a clarity about that person.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I really see you for the first time.
Yes. For the first, yes.
Talk about first.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see people for the first time in their saying no or not saying no.
Mm-hmm.
And I just know who you are in that moment. And sometimes it's sad because I'm like, you are not my friend.
Mm-hmm.
I thought for years you were my friend, but you're really not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when it's time to show up as a friend, you're not showing up for me.
Right.
And maybe I've always shown up for you.
Right.
But the thing that I learned years ago, Elman, was my best friend doesn't always have me as her best friend.
Mm.
Somebody
Wow.
else could be her best friend,
Mm-hmm.
right? I
Mm-hmm.
learned that years ago when I went to someone who was my best friend and we were having a discussion. And I'm like, we were talking about best friends, and she named somebody else as her best friend.
Mm.
And you're taken aback. You're like, what?
Hey, wait a second. When did that happen?
Or even, who's that?
Right. 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 Right.
About that person,
Yeah.
I was your best friend.
Right. Right. Right.
And so we just have to put that into perspective. I took that lesson with me for the rest of my life in dealing with people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just saying, when I ask someone, it doesn't mean that they're on my side, or they might have an ulterior motive for not doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just not saying it.
I think that's so interesting. There's I'm using a lot of old adages here, but there's an old adage that says, "Love your neighbor as you love yourself," and I think that's so key because a lot of times we focus on loving our neighbor,
Yes.
and then we stop the verse off there,
Yes.
as opposed to saying "as you love yourself," because you can't love someone unless you love yourself. And so, and if somebody who you thought was your friend, but then they don't support you, or someone you thought your friend, but they don't like see the dream or believe in your dream or even push you to your dream, then what kind of relationship is that? For whatever reason, because it could be jealousy, it could just the fact that they can't get up to your level of belief,
That's true.
or they just don't have your level of faith, or they just have been knocked down so many times that it's hard for them, whatever reason. But when you get into a relationship, for example, you always want to be in a relationship with someone who's going in your same direction, like
Yeah,
someone who's moving in your direction. Otherwise, it's like dead weight. It's like
evenly yoked.
you evenly yoked. Exactly, exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Married to a pastor. He's
Oh,
always talking about, are you evenly yoked or
evenly yoked.
yoked?
Yes, but it's so true because you want to be growing with someone. You want to be growing in the right direction. You want somebody who can push you to be better, and you can push them to be better, and you all can be like iron sharpening iron. It,
Yes, yes.
it's
I love that phrase.
yeah, it's the truth because I have some of my guys who I've grown up with, and we've all kind of matured together. There's certain guys who I talk to on a regular basis who I know will give me the absolute truth about me, who will give me the absolute truth about the situation, will give me the absolute truth about what I need to be doing going forward. And I can trust that I'm going to get some sound information from them. But then
True.
there are other people who I know I can't share deep, dark, not deep, deep interest with them because they're not going to appreciate it. They're
And
not going to,
be judged.
and I'll be judged. There's some friends I can say, I'm thinking about doing this and be like, yo, go for it. And there are other friends who are like, why would you think about that?
Yeah.
That's just too much.
I was looking at your thing when it says you left banking. So what did that take to leave banking?
Yeah. So when I first, so I moved to New York because of my wife, my girlfriend at the time, wife now, but
Where did you move from?
the Washington D.C. area. So I used to live in Maryland, and I lived in Northern Virginia, and then me and my wife started dating. She's from here in New York, and so we were dating long distance. And at the time that we were really moving towards marriage, we were trying to figure out where will we live. And I was looking for a job down there. She was looking for a job down there. I was looking for a job up here to see which place I could get a job first.
Right.
And everything worked out to me moving up here into New York. So I'm here in New York, and I started.
Far from home.
Yeah, not too far from home, just far enough.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I ended up working in a bank, and I was working in compliance, doing banking compliance.
I'm
Uh,
very familiar.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, so you used to be in that area, huh? And I was doing sanctions compliance and AML and all those types of things, and then I started working in consulting and doing that. And to be perfectly honest, Sandy, I was never that happy doing it. I was never that fulfilled
But you
doing
make
it.
good money.
I did make good money. I did make good money.
Sometimes,
Um,
we have to make that call.
Sometimes you have to make that sacrifice, yes. And then eventually it just became one of those things where it was just not. I'm glad that I made the move. And so at that point, towards the end of that, I started to formulate my own law firm and started looking at figuring out how to get clients and started talking to people about what are some of their needs.
What
And
kind of law do you do, Alvin?
so I do real estate law and I do business law. So I work with residential closings. I do work with buyers and sellers for residential real estate. And soon I'm going to be moving to commercial, but right now residential. For the business side of my practice, I work.
These are the things we need to know. No, really. In our day to day, you see people, you don't really know what they do. And
Yeah,
then they
yeah,
say something, I'm like, well, I'm doing that. I could have used Delman for certain things.
yeah, yeah.
But you don't know what you don't know.
This is true. This is true.
That's
Yeah.
one of the things I want to do with Toastmasters is create a directory, for lack of a better
We
word,
really should. We really should. Yeah.
of we have all these people and they work someplace. We have no idea. They come to Toastmasters, they show up and they do you might learn through their speech
Right.
what they
Right.
do.
Right.
But you don't really know, okay, Elman's a real estate lawyer. So if I need one, I can pick up, that and go, there's one that I see all
Yes.
the time, or I've come
Right.
to a
Right.
Toastmasters meeting. Like, let me try him first.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
but we
Yeah.
don't know that. People know what I do, like peripherally, but they don't really know what I do
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
day to day. And so for some the podcasting was like, oh, you're doing a podcast?
Yeah, yeah,
And for me it was like, well, yeah, I'm doing a podcast. Not an exciting, it's not exciting in the sense that the topic is exciting to me, but podcasts are in my world, in my marketing world.
mhm.
Like, why haven't you done a podcast before, Sandy's what
Yeah,
they
yeah.
but that's interesting that
Yes. So yeah, I do real estate law, but I also do business law. So I work with small entrepreneurs and small to mid-sized businesses, helping them with their formation, helping them with their seeing themselves set up, business planning, operating agreements, just all kinds of things working with them. Eventually, I want to move more into helping like small to mid-sized businesses do mergers and acquisitions. So as they begin to grow and expand, giving them
yeah.
some more advisory counsel regarding that. And then the thing that's really been interesting is that as I've been progressing, specifically in the real estate side, I've been asked by a number of different people about doing estate planning. So in terms of wills and trusts and things like that. So
Goes hand in hand.
yeah, in about 2 months, because right now I'm preparing myself, I'm studying for it, and I'm learning it. And so in about 2 months, I'm going to be adding that to my practice area. So it'll be uh,
Nice.
it'll be fun. It'll be fun. So I'm really
And
looking
you know
forward to
what's
that.
good about it is it's full circle. It's like
Yes.
you have everything in one place, right?
Yes. Exactly.
Because if usually you have to change your will when you do any kind of estate,
Oh
buy
yeah. Oh
property
yeah.
and do all this, you have to change your will, and somebody
Right.
has to do it or reminds, in my case, reminds me that I have to do it, even though my
Hmm.
husband's a lawyer. Sometimes
Oh,
it
okay.
slide, and somebody has to draw you back and go, okay, so you bought this property, who's gonna inherit it if you die? Like, put it in your will, update your will.
Yeah.
So
So
now
the
thinking every action that I take or every acquisition or any kind of asset that I create, I've got to put that in my will.
and it's interesting because I'm loving this now because the business side, the estate planning side, and the real estate side, all of them go hand in hand. Because a lot of times, what I'm finding is that individuals, especially for protection issues, especially if you begin to invest in different things,
Hmm.
at the time point that you begin to invest in different parts of real estate, you also want to have a business set up to protect yourself from any liability that may
Correct.
come. And
Correct.
then at the same time, you have certain businesses will go on in perpetuity. They continue on. And you still need to have that in your planning, your estate planning. So all of it is like a full circle about how you protect yourself, how you protect your assets, how you protect generationally.
Yes.
Because in a lot of times, this leads to a larger conversation, but a lot of times, in terms of specific communities, there hasn't been a lot of generational planning. There hasn't been a lot of,
None. Not a lot of. There's been none.
there has been, and especially in terms of estate planning, so, and I find that it's one of those things, I don't know if it's a societal, it's a structural thing, but, um, like for example, my grandparents didn't necessarily want to talk about a will because they didn't want to talk about death.
You're gonna
But
die if you talk about it.
Right, but then you have other cultures who say, "I'm going to plan this now. I'm going to set
Exactly.
up my life insurance. I'm going to set up my wills. I'm going to set up my trust." And then their kids, once they pass away, their kids have inherited this lion's share of money
Generational wealth.
that they're able to build with. And the thing about it is that you sometimes people won't really talk about the fact that they've had these stepping stones to help them prepare for their lives until you dig a little deeper into into who they are and their background and you learn more and you
Yes.
find out that wow, this group over here has really set themselves up. They have all these things set up. The parents have really done a lot of planning to prepare for them
They
and
talk about it at the dinner table.
they talk about it
We do not.
and it's almost discouraged
As
in our
black
community.
people,
Yes.
it's discouraged because why are you hanging your dirty laundry out there? Or even if the laundry is clean, why do they need to know about it? And so it doesn't get talked about. And this is why I'm thankful with my mom because she would ask us about things and she'd answer any question that we had. And
Yeah.
even my grandparents grandparents were so atypical because you could ask them any question in the world and they'd give you an answer. Which
Yeah.
instead of saying, "Be quiet, you're a kid," which I
Yeah.
heard a lot of my friends' parents
Yeah.
or grandparents said, like, "Don't talk about that in front of the kids," or you don't need to know about this. What was the issue? I know what it was. Someone told me they didn't know who their father was,
Mm.
right? And their mom passed away. They never got to know who their father
Mm.
was, right?
Oh man.
This is a deep thing because the person that she thought was her father was not. She found out was not. And by the time she confronted her mom told her, "You don't need to know that.
Mm.
What good is it going to do for you to know that?" Right?
Oh man. As you
So,
said that, it just got chill bumps actually. Oh. So this is a very big topic. Not only are we talking about estate planning and generational wealth, but then you start talking about trauma in communities. Like I can only imagine the amount of psychological trauma that person must have faced by hearing that. And
and I've heard that same story several times. I mean, if that person is listening, I can tell you 20 other people have told me a similar story.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've
It's prevalent. It's
I
prevalent
was
in the Black community. I don't know about the white people because I can't talk about that. But
mhm,
I know in the Black community, that is prevalent.
yeah, and it's sad because we deal with these psychological traumas. I'm part of a men's group, and one of the things about it is it helps men deal with these types of issues because specifically with men,
Yes.
with men sometimes we get to a point where society tells us we need to be tough, we need to be macho, we don't have to disclose our feelings, and that couldn't be further from the truth because we have emotions just like anybody else. We have feelings just like anybody else. We get hurt, we remember things,
Yep.
we you know, and men specifically, and this is everybody. People need to talk about these things. People need to have someone to go to and get it all out
Well, when
because
we bring the topic up, is why you want to talk about that,
you're right. Right.
right?
And unfortunately, right. And unfortunately, when people say that, that's sad, it's disheartening, but that's really like a level of weakness where people are afraid to disclose the truth. People are afraid to deal with the truth of the situation, the truth of the matter. And people are hurting out here. People are hurting out here, and that's why.
Yanla Van Zandt, do you watch her?
Yes, I've seen her show. Yeah, she's powerful.
I love what she's doing because she's digging up those dirty truths, right? A lot of times. And people who go on her show had the audacity to confront their own issues or
Mm,
family issues,
I
right?
like that. I like what you said there,
The,
that
the
audacity.
thing that we don't want to talk about, the things that you put in a closet, and probably that people have never even verbalized. They might be thinking it, but they've never said it out of their mouths,
Yeah, yeah.
right? It just lives as a thought or a negative thought in their heads. And she is saying, give voice to this thought. Give voice, just communicate. Why? I was watching this show where they're confronting the mother. She was a teen mom.
Hmm.
She had her first child at around 15, 16, 15 or so.
Wow, wow.
And she had subsequent kids during her teen years.
Mm.
And then she disappeared. She just left the kids with their grandmothers and, whoever, and just disappeared. Right? And so now, how many years later, the children are confronting her.
Mm,
Like, this is what my life has been like because I didn't have a mom.
mm.
And you're alive and well, and we don't understand. And it turns out that she was a victim of sexual abuse by a family member,
Mm.
and she got pregnant. not only the family member, but from the guy next door, the married guy next door,
Oh,
right? And she got pregnant for these people, and she told her parents, who didn't believe her.
oh,
She just said, like, you're kind of, the slut word, you're just out there
yeah,
doing these things. And so the only coping mechanism she had was to leave,
yeah,
to
yeah.
remove herself and leave these kids. She wasn't attached to these kids
Right.
because, as she said on the show, how do you love a kid that's a product of a rape, or that you're the product? And this is the first time the kids were hearing this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? So they hated their mom for leaving us and abandoning us. They didn't know the why.
The why. Yes, the why. Yes.
And then when they're hearing it, they started to cry. And I remember one guy said, "You mean I'm the product of a rape? Like my dad's a rapist? Like, did I need to know that?"
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
empathize, right?
yeah.
And so when we do these things, we also need to ask, why is that person, or finding out, why did that person do that? Like, what was their motivation for doing that?
Right, right,
Because it could be good, bad, or indifferent. They
right,
have a reason. Nobody just gets up and leave,
right,
you
right.
know, some were on drugs, some were on different, but it's good to talk about it. So you could start a new relationship
Right.
in this time, coming from
Yeah.
a place of truth,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
So, and imagine how it flipped. Like in that, it's one episode, but it was over a large period of time. But imagine where you start out screaming at this woman for abandoning you and never doing anything for your kids and whatever.
Yeah.
Then at the end, you find out, oh my God, I should have been thanking this woman for giving birth to me, even.
Right.
As
Isn't
a
that something? That's just, man, that's so deep. That's so deep.
deep, but our lives are deep.
Yeah. Like life is not black and white. There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of gray. Almost feel like when you think about life on the scale, if you do like a spectrum, though, because some people want to say, "Oh, you just make this decision and that's just it. You just need to do this. You just need."
Yeah,
Calm down, calm down. It's one of those things where, in the reality of the situation, there's a little bit of black, there's a little bit of white, the rest is gray.
yeah,
And people are really like, look, every decision that we make, it's tied to all these decisions that we've previously made or things that are in front of us that we know they're going to go this way or go that way. No decision is just like, oh, just make a left, that's it. Oh, just do this, that's it. There's a lot of things that are going on in our decision. There's a lot of reasons for why we do different things. That's why it's so hard to make a judgment
yeah.
about somebody because you don't know what that person has gone through. You
That's
don't know what the reasons that person has for making the decision that they're making. You know?
You're talking about an adage, and I'm gonna have to wrap up because I have a 1 o'clock. But there's this song called "You Don't Know,"
Hmm.
and every time I listen to it, I'm like, and he ends with, "You just don't know who,
Yep.
you don't know, you don't, and you don't know."
You
And
don't know.
every time I hear it, I'm like, I really don't know what somebody else is going through,
No. No.
and
And it's
and you really don't. You see people all the time, and you think, "Hey, you good?" And they might say, "Yeah, I'm good," but are they really good?
right. It's
Are
like
they
what
really going to tell
right.
you this?
Yeah. Hey, what does good mean to them?
We could
It's
go
one of
on
those things.
forever on this.
Oh my goodness, this has been great.
And I want to thank you, Elman, for being a part of this moment
Thank you so
and
much for having me. This has been
having
great.
this conversation. I don't know how much is, going to make it to the floor, but I really
Okay.
want to thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for just doing this, like listening to your dreams, listening to your goals, and putting this on. And I am sure this is going to your podcast is going to change many lives. I know it,
Well,
and I'm excited to see the work that you do.
thank you so
So yeah,
much.
yeah. And I guess I should put a plug in there for my book, which is Look Up. It's coming out in May. You can follow me on Instagram at Elman Woodson. Also on Facebook at Elman Woodson. On Twitter at I am Elman Woodson. And if you need me to speak, let me know.
All right, will do. Will do. Absolutely. This is Dr. Sandi. Thank you so much for sharing your journey on the first, where no two stories are alike, even if the circumstances are similar. Let this discussion serve as inspiration for others to show what's possible, and more importantly, to produce seconds and thirds.